On the morning of my wedding, my mother handed me a small cloth bag. She did not smile. She did not explain. She simply said, "Hide this under your bed. Do not let anyone see it. Do not open it until your husband is asleep." I was 19 years old. I had no idea what was inside. I had no idea that those 5 items would shape everything I thought I knew about marriage, submission, and the secret rituals that no one ever talks about. The bag was heavy for its size, not heavy with weight, but heavy with meaning. I could feel it in my hands, the weight of generations, the weight of tradition, the weight of something I was not supposed to understand yet. My mother's hands were trembling as she gave it to me. I noticed that. I noticed the way she looked away when she handed it over. I noticed the way she pressed her lips together, the way she did when she was holding something back. I did not ask what was inside. I did not ask why she was trembling. I did not ask why she would not meet my eyes. I was too afraid of the answers. I took the bag. I carried it upstairs to the room that would be my marriage bed. I knelt down and pushed it under the wooden frame, deep into the shadows where no one would see it. I did not open it. I did not touch it again. Not until the night of my wedding. Not until I was alone in the darkness, with a man I barely knew and a bag of secrets I did not understand. 25 years later, I still have that bag. I still have those items. And I still remember the feeling of hiding them under my bed, not knowing what they meant, too afraid to ask. That night, after the wedding, after the guests had gone, after my husband had fallen asleep, I reached under the bed. My fingers found the cloth bag. I pulled it out, I held it in my hands, and I opened it. What I found inside changed everything I thought I knew about being an Amish wife. Today I am going to tell you what was in that bag. I am going to tell you what each item meant. And I am going to tell you what happened when I finally understood what my mother had given me. The 5 items, 5 secrets, 5 truths that no Amish bride is ever told until she is alone in the dark, holding them in her hands. Before I tell you what I found, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching from today? Tell me your country or your state in the comments below. I read every single comment, every single one. Now let me tell you about the 5 items every Amish bride must hide under her bed on her wedding night. The first thing I pulled out of that cloth bag was a small wooden cross. It was no bigger than my thumb, carved from dark, aged wood. The surface was smooth, worn down by years of being held, of being touched, of being passed from mother to daughter to mother to daughter. I could feel the weight of it in my palm. Not just the weight of the wood, the weight of generations. My mother had held this cross on her wedding night, her mother before her, her mother before her. The cross was older than anyone could remember, older than the farm, older than the district, older than the community itself, maybe. It had come from the old country, from Switzerland, from a time when our ancestors were still fleeing persecution and carrying their faith in their pockets. But here is the thing about that cross. It was not a symbol of faith, not in the way you might think. It was not meant to be worn. It was not meant to be displayed. It was meant to be held, in the darkness, in the silence, when no one else could see. It was a promise from every woman who had carried it before me, a promise that I was not alone, a promise that the women who had come before me had survived this night, and so would I. My mother did not tell me this when she gave me the cross. She did not explain. She just handed it over and looked away. I had to learn what it meant on my own. I had to hold it in my hand and wonder. I had to feel the weight of it and try to understand. I did not understand it fully until years later, until after I had given birth to my own daughters, until I had passed the cross to them on their wedding nights, until I had seen the same look in their eyes that I had seen in my mother's eyes, the look of a woman who is trying to say something she cannot say. Because that is the thing about the cross. It is not meant to be explained. It is meant to be felt. It is meant to be held in the dark, when you are scared and alone and wondering if you made the right choice. It is meant to remind you that you are part of something larger than yourself, a chain of women stretching back through time, a chain of women who survived. I remember holding that cross on my wedding night. I remember the way the wood felt in my hand, smooth, warm, alive. I remember pressing it against my chest and closing my eyes and trying to feel the presence of all the women who had held it before me. And I remember thinking, I am not alone. I have never been alone. I will never be alone. That cross carried me through the darkest nights of my marriage, through the years of silence, through the years of fear, through the years of wondering if I had made the right choice. It was always there, under my bed, waiting for me to reach for it in the dark. I want to tell you something about that cross, something I have never told anyone. When I passed it to my eldest daughter on her wedding night, I held her hands and I looked into her eyes and I said, "This is not a symbol of faith. It is a symbol of survival. Every woman who has held this cross has survived. You will survive too." She did not understand what I meant, not then, but I think she understands now. I think she holds that cross in the dark, just like I did. I think she presses it against her chest and remembers my words. I think she knows she is not alone. The cross was the first item in the bag. It was the most important. It was the one that anchored all the others. Without it, the rest of the items would have been just objects. With it, they became something more. They became a map, a guide, a set of instructions for surviving a life that no one warned me about. I did not understand this on my wedding night. I only understood it years later, after I had held the cross in my hands 1,000 times, after I had learned to trust its weight, after I had learned to listen to its silence. The wooden cross taught me something I have never forgotten. It taught me that we carry our ancestors with us, not in our memories, not in our stories, in our hands, in the things we touch, in the things we pass down. We are never alone. We are never the first to suffer. We are never the first to survive. That knowledge is the greatest gift my mother ever gave me, greater than the cross itself, greater than any of the items in the bag. That knowledge is what kept me going through the hard years, through the years when I wanted to give up, through the years when I wondered if it was worth it. The cross reminded me that it was. It always was. It always will be. I still have that cross. I keep it under my bed, in the same cloth bag my mother gave me. I do not touch it often. I do not need to. Just knowing it there is enough. Just knowing that I am part of that chain of women is enough. Just knowing that my daughters will carry it after me is enough. That is the power of the first item. That is the power of the wooden cross. That is the power of a tradition that no one talks about, but everyone understands. The second item I pulled out of that cloth bag was a lock of hair. It was wrapped in a small piece of white cloth tied with a thin piece of thread. I remember the way it felt in my fingers, soft, fine, almost weightless. It was not my hair. It was my mother's hair. I recognized the color, the texture, the way it caught the dim light of the kerosene lamp. My mother had cut a lock of her own hair and placed it in the bag for me. She had done it without telling me. She had done it without explaining why. I held that lock of hair in my hand, and I felt something I had never felt before. A connection, a thread, a bond that went deeper than words. My mother had given me a piece of herself, not a symbol, not a metaphor, a literal piece of her body. She had cut her hair and placed it in that bag so that I would have something of hers to hold on to when I was scared and alone, so that I would never forget that I was part of her, so that I would never forget that she was part of me. I did not understand the significance of this at first. I was 19 years old. I was scared. I was confused. I was trying to figure out what it meant to be a wife, a woman, an adult. I did not have room in my head for the symbolism of a lock of hair, but I held on to it anyway. I tucked it back into the cloth, and I placed it under my bed, and I tried not to think about it. Years later, I understood. I understood that the lock of hair was not just a reminder of my mother. It was a reminder of sacrifice, of giving something of yourself to the ones you love, of cutting away a piece of yourself and offering it to someone else. In the Amish world, hair is sacred. It is not cut, it is not styled, it is not displayed. It is hidden, covered, kept private. A woman's hair belongs to her husband. That is what we are taught. That is what we believe. So when my mother cut her hair and gave it to me, she was giving me something that was not supposed to be given. She was breaking a rule, a sacred rule. She was giving me something that was meant to be reserved for her husband. She was giving me something that was meant to be private. She was giving me something that was meant to be hidden. Why would she do that? Why would she break such an important rule? I asked myself that question for years. I asked myself why she would cut her hair and give it to me. Why she would break the sacred rule. why she would risk the judgment of the community. And then, one day, I understood. I understood that she did it because she loved me, because she wanted me to have something of hers, because she wanted me to remember that I was part of her, because she wanted me to remember that the rules, even the sacred ones, were not more important than love. I do not know if I would have done the same for my daughters. I do not know if I would have been brave enough to cut my hair and give it to them. I do not know if I would have been willing to break the sacred rule, but I hope I would have. I hope I would have been brave enough to give them something of myself, something real, something tangible, something they could hold on to in the dark. That lock of hair is still in my bag. It is still wrapped in the white cloth. It is still tied with the thin piece of thread. I do not look at it often. I do not need to. Just knowing it is there is enough. Just knowing that my mother gave me something of herself. Just knowing that she broke the sacred rule for me. That knowledge is a gift I will never be able to repay. And the truth is, I do not think she expected me to repay it. I do not think she expected anything in return. I think she just wanted me to know that I was loved. And that is what that lock of hair taught me. It taught me that love is not about following the rules. It is about breaking them, about giving something of yourself to someone else, about making yourself vulnerable, about offering a piece of your soul. That is the second item, a lock of hair. A piece of my mother's soul, a reminder of the sacrifice she made for me, a reminder of the love she carried in her heart. I will never know how she felt when she cut her hair. I will never know if she was afraid. I will never know if she felt guilty, but I know she did it anyway. And that is what matters. That is what I carry with me. That is what I will pass on to my daughters, not the lock of hair itself, but the lesson it carries, the lesson that love is worth breaking the rules, the lesson that sacrifice is the truest form of love. The third item I pulled out of that cloth bag was a silver coin. It was old, very old. The edges were worn smooth, the markings faded, the surface dulled by decades of being held, being touched, being passed from hand to hand. I could not read the date on it, I could not make out the writing, but I knew what it was. I had seen coins like it before. Not in my everyday life, but in the stories my grandmother used to tell, the stories about the old country, about Switzerland, about the time when our ancestors were still fleeing persecution, carrying everything they owned in small bags, hiding in barns and basements, running from the people who wanted to kill them for their faith. That coin had been with them. That coin had traveled across the ocean. That coin had been hidden in a pocket, a shoe, a bag, while my ancestors made their way to America. That coin had been passed down through generations, from mother to daughter, from daughter to mother, always hidden, always secret, always waiting. My mother did not tell me what the coin was for. She did not explain its significance. She just placed it in the bag and gave it to me. I had to figure it out on my own, and I did not figure it out for years. At first I thought it was a good luck charm, a symbol of prosperity, a reminder that God would provide. That is what I told myself. That is what I believed. But I was wrong. The coin was not about luck. It was not about prosperity. It was not about God. The coin was about escape. I learned this years later from my grandmother on her deathbed. She was 93 years old. She had been married for 70 years. She had given birth to 11 children. She had buried 4 of them. She had lived through wars and famines and the death of her own mother. And on her deathbed, she told me the truth about the coin. The coin is for running, she said. It is for leaving. It is for the moment when you have to choose between your life and your marriage. It is for the moment when you have to run. I did not understand what she meant, not at first, but then she told me the story. She told me about her own mother, my great-grandmother, who had used a silver coin to escape a violent husband. She had hidden the coin for years. She had saved it for the moment when she needed it, and when that moment came, she used it to buy a train ticket, to buy food, to buy her freedom. She did not tell anyone about the coin, my grandmother said. She kept it secret, she kept it hidden, and when the time came, she used it to run. That was the purpose of the silver coin. It was not a symbol of faith, it was not a good luck charm, it was a tool, a weapon, a way out. It was a secret that every Amish mother passed to her daughter, a secret that could save her life, a secret that could set her free. I held the coin in my hand and I wept. I wept for my great-grandmother. I wept for all the women who had carried that coin before me. I wept for the women who had used it to run. I wept for the women who had never used it but had kept it anyway, just in case. And I wept for myself, because I knew in that moment that I was carrying the coin too, carrying it for my daughters, carrying it for their daughters, carrying it for the moment when one of them might need it. That is the third item, a silver coin, a piece of history, a symbol of escape, a reminder that sometimes the bravest thing a woman can do is run. The fourth item I pulled out of that cloth bag was a piece of white cloth. It was simple, unadorned, no embroidery, no lace, no decoration of any kind, just a square of plain white fabric, folded neatly, pressed flat, as if it had been ironed 1,000 times. I remember the way it felt in my hands, soft, smooth, almost weightless, but heavy with meaning. I did not know what the cloth was for, not at first. I thought it might be a handkerchief. Something to wipe away tears, something to hold on to when I was scared, something to press against my face when I needed to hide. I was wrong. The cloth was not for tears. It was for blood. I learned this the hard way, on my wedding night, in the darkness, when I was alone with a man I barely knew and a piece of white cloth that had been placed under my bed by my mother. The cloth was meant to catch the blood of my first night, the blood that proved I was pure, the blood that proved I had never been touched. The blood that proved I was worthy of marriage. In the Amish community, virginity is not just a virtue. It is a requirement. A woman who is not pure on her wedding night is damaged. She is unworthy. She is a disgrace to her family and her community, and she will be shunned. I did not know this, not fully. I knew that purity was important. I knew that I was supposed to remain untouched until marriage, but I did not know that my worth as a wife, as a woman, as a human being would be determined by a piece of white cloth. That cloth was my test, my judgment, my fate. If there was blood on it, I was worthy. If there was no blood, I was nothing. I remember the fear I felt when I realized what the cloth was for. The terror, the dread. The sinking feeling in my stomach that told me I was about to be judged by something I could not control. I had been pure. I had kept myself untouched. But I was also afraid. Afraid that I would bleed too much or too little. Afraid that I would not bleed at all. Afraid that I would fail the test even though I had done nothing wrong. I held the cloth in my hands, and I wept. I wept for all the women who had held it before me. I wept for all the women who had been judged by it. I wept for all the women who had been shunned because of it. And I wept for myself, because I knew that my entire future was resting on that small piece of white fabric. I placed the cloth under my pillow. I tried to sleep. I could not. I lay awake in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the morning, waiting for the judgment. When morning came, I looked at the cloth. There was blood on it, a small stain, just enough. I was worthy, I was pure, I was accepted. But I did not feel relief. I did not feel joy. I felt something else, something I could not name, something that would take me years to understand. The cloth had judged me, and I had passed. But I had also been marked. Marked as a woman whose worth was determined by a stain. Marked as a woman whose value was measured by her body. Marked as a woman who would always be judged by the things she could not control. I still have that cloth. I keep it in the bag with the other items. I do not look at it often. I do not need to. Just knowing it is there is enough. Just knowing that I was judged by it. Just knowing that I passed. But also knowing that passing the test did not make me worthy. It just made me acceptable. That is the fourth item. A piece of white cloth, a symbol of purity, a symbol of judgment, a symbol of the impossible standards we place on women. I will not pass it to my daughters. I will not put them through the same test. I will not let their worth be determined by a stain on a piece of cloth. The cloth taught me something I have never forgotten. It taught me that women are measured by impossible standards. It taught me that our worth is determined by things we cannot control. It taught me that the system is designed to judge us, no matter what we do. And it taught me that the only way to break free is to refuse to be judged. That is what I am doing today, refusing to be judged, refusing to be silent, refusing to let the white cloth determine my worth. I am more than a stain. I am more than a test. I am a woman who has survived, and that is worth more than any piece of white cloth. The fifth and final item I pulled out of that cloth bag was a folded letter. It was sealed with wax, a small red drop of wax, pressed with a pattern I did not recognize. The paper was yellowed with age, brittle at the edges. I could tell it was old, very old, older than my mother, older than my grandmother, older than anyone I had ever known. I held the letter in my hands, and I felt something strange, a shiver, a premonition, a sense that I was holding something that was not meant to be read by just anyone, something that was meant to be read by me, and only me. I did not open the letter that night. I was too afraid, too tired, too overwhelmed by everything that had happened. I placed it back in the bag, and I pushed it under the bed. I told myself I would read it in the morning. But I did not read it in the morning. I did not read it for years. The letter sat under my bed, unopened, for 7 years. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of silence. 7 years of wondering what was inside. 7 years of being too afraid to find out. And then, one night, I opened it. I was 26 years old. I had been married for 7 years. I had given birth to 3 children. I had lost my mother to cancer. I had lost my father to a heart attack. I had lost my faith in God, or at least I had lost my faith in the God I had been taught to believe in. I was tired. I was broken. I was ready to hear whatever that letter had to say. I pulled the bag out from under the bed. I untied the string. I reached inside and I pulled out the letter. The wax seal had cracked over the years. I broke it the rest of the way. I unfolded the paper, and I began to read. The letter was written in Pennsylvania Dutch. In handwriting I did not recognize. The words were small, careful, precise. The handwriting of someone who had taken great care in writing them. Someone who had known that these words would be read by someone important. Someone who had known that these words would matter. I read the letter slowly. I read it twice, I read it 3 times, and then I wept. The letter was from my great-grandmother, the one who had used the silver coin to escape, the one who had run from a violent husband, the one who had started the tradition of the cloth bag. She had written the letter for me, for the daughter who would come after her, for the daughter who would carry her legacy, for the daughter who would need to hear her words. The letter said, "To my daughter's daughter's daughter, if you are reading this, you are holding a piece of me. You are holding the words I could not say out loud. You are holding the truth I could not tell anyone. You are holding the secret that every woman in our family has carried and passed down and hidden in the darkness. I do not know who you are. I do not know your name. I do not know your face. But I know your soul, because your soul is my soul. It is the soul of every woman who came before you. It is the soul of every woman who will come after you. I am writing this to tell you something I have never told anyone, something I could not tell anyone, something that would have destroyed me if I had told it. But I am old now, and I am dying, and I am no longer afraid. I am writing to tell you the truth about your marriage. The truth is that it will not be easy. It will not be happy. It will not be what you imagined. There will be days when you want to leave. There will be nights when you want to scream. There will be moments when you wonder if you made the right choice. But I want you to know something that took me a lifetime to learn. You are not alone. You are never alone. The women who came before you are with you. They are in the cross. They are in the hair. They are in the coin. They are in the cloth. They are in this letter. They are in every tradition that we have passed down, every secret that we have kept, every sacrifice that we have made. You are part of something larger than yourself. You are part of a chain of women who have survived, a chain of women who have endured, a chain of women who have loved and lost and loved again. Do not let your marriage define you. Do not let your husband define you. Do not let the community define you. You are not their property. You are not their servant. You are not their sacrifice. You are a woman with a soul, a woman with a voice, a woman with a choice. I chose to stay. I stayed because I was afraid. I stayed because I had nowhere else to go. I stayed because I was taught that leaving was a sin, but I have regretted it every day. Do not make my mistake. Do not stay because you are afraid. Do not stay because you have nowhere else to go. Do not stay because you were taught that leaving was a sin. Leave if you need to leave. Run if you need to run. Fight if you need to fight. But do not stay in a place that is killing your soul. I did not have the courage to leave, but I have the courage to tell you, I am giving you permission. Permission to be free, permission to be happy, permission to be yourself. You are not alone. You are never alone. And if you ever need to run, remember the coin. It is there for a reason. With all my love, your great-grandmother. I sat in the darkness, holding that letter, and I wept. I wept for my great-grandmother. I wept for the life she had lived. I wept for the courage it took her to write those words. I wept for the gift she had given me. And I made a promise to myself, a promise to her, a promise to every woman who would come after me. I would not stay in a place that was killing my soul. I would not let my marriage define me. I would not let my husband define me. I would not let the community define me. I would be free. That is the fifth and final item, the folded letter. The truth I was not supposed to read. The permission I was not supposed to receive. The gift I was not supposed to open. And I am so glad I did. 25 years have passed since I first opened that cloth bag. 25 years since I held those 5 items in my hands and tried to understand what they meant. 25 years since I hid them under my bed and wondered why my mother had given them to me. 25 years since I began the long, slow journey of learning what it truly means to be an Amish wife, an Amish mother, an Amish woman. And now, sitting here in my kitchen, I have pulled the bag out from under my bed for the last time. I have untied the string. I have reached inside, and I have held each item in my hands one final time. The wooden cross, worn smooth by generations of women who held it in the dark. I hold it now, and I feel the weight of all those women. My mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother. All the way back to the old country, to the women who fled persecution, who crossed the ocean, who built new lives in a new land. They are all here in this cross. They are all with me. They have always been with me. The lock of hair, my mother's hair. The piece of herself she cut and gave to me. The piece of herself she placed in this bag so that I would never forget that I was part of her. I hold it now and I feel her presence. I feel her love. I feel her sacrifice. I feel the courage it took her to break the sacred rule, to give me something that was not supposed to be given. The silver coin, the coin that my great-grandmother used to escape, the coin that was passed down through generations, always hidden, always secret, always waiting. I hold it now, and I feel the fear she must have felt, the fear of leaving everything behind, the fear of starting over, the fear of the unknown, but also the courage to run, the courage to choose herself over the rules, the piece of white cloth, the cloth that judged me, the cloth that determined my worth. I hold it now, and I feel the shame of being measured by a stain, the shame of being valued for my body, the shame of being reduced to something I could not control, but I also feel the liberation of realizing that I am more than a stain, I am more than a test, I am more than a piece of white cloth. The folded letter, the letter from my great-grandmother, the letter that gave me permission to be free, the letter that told me I was not alone, the letter that taught me that leaving is not a sin. I hold it now, and I feel her presence. I feel her courage. I feel her love. I feel her hope. These 5 items, 5 secrets, 5 truths, 5 gifts from the women who came before me. They have shaped my life. They have defined my marriage. They have guided my choices. And they have given me the strength to finally, after all these years, speak the truth. I kept the bag hidden for 25 years. I kept it under my bed in the shadows where no one could see it. I did not tell anyone about it. Not my husband, not my children, not my friends, not even my mother knew that I had opened it, that I had read the letter, that I had understood the meaning behind each item. I was afraid of what people would think, afraid of being judged, afraid of being shunned, afraid of losing everything I had worked for. So I kept the bag hidden. I kept the secrets hidden. I kept myself hidden, but I cannot hide anymore. I am telling you this story today because I want you to understand something that took me 25 years to learn, something that I wish someone had told me when I was 19 years old, standing in my mother's kitchen, holding a cloth bag that held the weight of generations. The traditions we carry are not always meant to protect us. Sometimes they are meant to control us. Sometimes they are meant to keep us small, silent, obedient. Sometimes they are meant to make us forget that we have choices. The wooden cross was not just a symbol of faith, it was a symbol of survival. A reminder that we are not alone. A reminder that we are part of something larger than ourselves, but it was also a reminder that we are meant to endure, that we are meant to suffer, that we are meant to accept our fate without question. The lock of hair was not just a piece of my mother. It was a piece of her sacrifice. A reminder that love means giving something of yourself. But it was also a reminder that we are meant to give everything. That we are meant to sacrifice everything. That we are meant to lose ourselves in the service of others. The silver coin was not just a symbol of escape. It was a symbol of fear, a reminder that we might need to run, but it was also a reminder that running is the last resort, that we are meant to stay, that we are meant to endure, that we are meant to accept our fate, no matter how painful. The piece of white cloth was not just a symbol of purity, it was a symbol of judgment, a reminder that we are measured by impossible standards. But it was also a reminder that we are meant to be judged, that we are meant to be evaluated, that we are meant to prove our worth through our bodies. The folded letter was not just a piece of paper, it was a piece of truth. A reminder that we are not alone, a reminder that we have choices, a reminder that leaving is not a sin, but it was also a reminder that the truth is dangerous, that the truth can destroy us, that the truth can cost us everything. I have held all of these items. I have carried them with me for 25 years, and I have finally learned the lesson they were meant to teach me. The lesson is this: you are not alone. You have choices. You have a voice. You have a soul. You are not defined by the traditions you carry. You are not defined by the rules you follow. You are not defined by the judgments of others. You are defined by the choices you make. I made my choice. I chose to stay. I chose to endure. I chose to accept my fate. For 25 years, I chose to follow the rules, to keep the secrets, to hide the bag under my bed, to pretend that everything was fine. But I am choosing differently now. I am choosing to speak. I am choosing to tell the truth. I am choosing to share the secrets that I have carried for so long. I am choosing to break the silence. And I am choosing to pass on the bag. Not the bag itself, but the lesson it carries. The lesson that we have choices. The lesson that we have voices. The lesson that we have the power to break the cycle. I am not going to give the bag to my daughters. I am not going to pass on the cross, the hair, the coin, the cloth, the letter. I am not going to make them carry the weight of generations. I am not going to make them hide their secrets under their beds. Instead, I am going to tell them the truth. I am going to tell them that they are not alone. I am going to tell them that they have choices. I am going to tell them that they have the power to break the cycle. I am going to tell them that they do not have to carry the weight of the past. They can choose their own path. They can create their own traditions. They can build their own lives. That is what I want for them. That is what I want for every woman who watches this video. That is what I want for you. I want you to know that you are not alone, that you have choices, that you have a voice, that you have the power to break the cycle, The 5 items in that bag were given to me by the women who came before me. They were meant to protect me. They were meant to guide me. They were meant to remind me of where I came from. And they did all of those things. But they also held me back. They kept me small. They kept me silent. They kept me trapped in a cycle I did not even know I was in. I am breaking that cycle today, right now, in this video. I am breaking the silence. I am breaking the tradition. I am breaking the cycle. I want you to know that you can break your cycle too, whatever it is. Whatever is holding you back, whatever is keeping you small, silent, obedient, you can break it. You have the power. You have the voice. You have the choices. It will not be easy. It was not easy for me. It took me 25 years to find the courage to speak, but I am speaking now, and I will never be silent again. So here is what I want you to take away from this story. I want you to ask yourself, what are the items in your bag? What are the traditions, the rules, the secrets that you are carrying? What are the things you are hiding under your bed? And what would happen if you finally opened the bag and looked inside and understood what they really mean? You might find that they are not what you thought they were. You might find that they are not meant to protect you. You might find that they are meant to control you. You might find that they are meant to keep you small. And when you find that, you might also find the courage to let them go. I am letting go of my bag today. I am letting go of the secrets I have carried for 25 years. I am letting go of the weight of generations. I am letting go of the fear. I am letting go of the silence. And I am finally, truly free. Thank you for listening to my story. I am so grateful that you have stayed with me until the end. I want you to know that whatever you are carrying, whatever you are hiding, whatever you are afraid to face, you are not alone. You never were, and you never will be. So tell me, what are the items in your bag? What are the traditions, the rules, the secrets that you are carrying? What are the things you are hiding under your bed? I would love to hear your story. Share it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you need to leave, remember the coin. If you need to run, remember the coin. If you need to choose yourself over the rules, remember the coin. It is there for a reason. I wish you peace. I wish you courage. I wish you freedom. This is the Amish Files, and this is my story.